Okay, we are recording, and I have this in as Brady Bunch mode at the moment, but I'm going to put it into speaker mode right now. Okay, so let's start with a spiritual mind treatment. I almost was going to ask Corrine to do the treatment today because, of course, she passed her Prac 1 test yesterday with flying colors, um, but I wouldn't dare do that to her after having to go through that test last night. So let's all take a deep breath. Let's get very comfortable right where we are, recognizing that right where I am, God is, that there is no other possibility, knowing that the infinite wisdom, the infinite intelligence of the universe is right here, fully present, moving through, in, and as the very essence of my being. And I know that for myself. I know that for each person on this call. I know that for Corrine, Francisco, Georgette, Jeanette, Karen, Mindy. I know that for every single person that takes this class and watches this. I know that there is only divine love. There is only this understanding of pure fellowship. So I know that every idea that comes forth this morning, every question that is asked, every salient point that is discussed is the very essence of intelligence moving itself as itself into an even higher realm of understanding. And I know that what is done here today is important, is a relative fact of truth in the absolute mind of God, that all is unfolding perfectly in each and every life. And so from that understanding, I just step aside knowing that this time we spend is well spent, beautiful, loving, and I just allow it to be so, as together we all say, and so it is. Okay, so you can all unmute yourselves when you talk. I am going to go through a few um, things from the last class, just to go over, just to get us started, and then I'll go into your salient points. So the first thing on page 40 was just the quote, "What we draw from the mind of the universe, we draw through the channel of our own minds." So while that seems very self-evident, and while that seems very clear, I don't know that we always take it seriously. You know, we talk about wanting to know more, understand more, to be more, to create more, to accept more. And yet we seem to think there's some way of doing that. Now, spiritual mind treatment certainly is a tool we use to rise in consciousness. But I think it's important for us to remember everything we say we want is right there in our minds. I mean, that's the way it works. Everything we say we want to accomplish is already accomplished in mind. We just have to be the channel and receive it. So one of the big things in chapter 3 for me is understanding that there are many of us that unfortunately do not receive well. And I don't know if that's you, um, but if it is, give it some thought. You know, why do you hold back from yourself? Why do you not receive the things that are yours to receive? You know, is there anything right now that if you could think of that you know you want to have or experience or be doing that you're not doing? If there's that there and you can really point to it and go, yeah, I want that and I don't have it, what's going on? Is it that you're not willing to receive it, or that you perhaps just don't believe enough that it's really yours, which is really another way of saying you're not willing to receive it? So the second thing I want to bring up is on page 43, and this is something that, you know, it kind of goes through the teaching and we hear it a lot, and it's that love rules through law. Um, I had a discussion recently with a student who basically said, "Well, we're not free because the law is the law. You can't change the law." Well, you know, if there's a glass of poison on the table, does that glass of poison rule my life? Or am I free to dump it down the drain or drink it? I can hurt myself, I can free myself. It's my choice. The law is a tool. The law is, it's who we are. And I think the real argument here, or the thing that trips people up here, is that they think because the law is always saying yes, that we're not free because the law is going to say yes to even things we don't want because we're believing them. Well, but we're believing them. So it's still doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and I am free to change my belief. Here's the rub. I'm not free to change the law. I am not free to say, I'm going to just eat a lot of crap food and my body's still going to be perfect. It may be done unto you as you believe, but there's something in there that knows, I say this all the time, that a Twinkie is not healthy. It does stay like perfectly in form for like 1,000 years, a Twinkie. So what must be in that for that to happen? Just saying. So love rules through law. Love is the divine givingness, and law is the way. Or as we say it, love points the way, law makes the way possible. So love points the way, you get to point the way, and the law just makes it happen. On page 44, he says, we should do well to look to the mind for the answer to all of our problems. I really didn't want that to go by unless it's one of your salient points, but we should do well to look to the mind for the answer to all of our problems, not just some of them, all of them. And I think we are way too quick to throw that truth out the window. I think we are way too quick to think there's some other thing that can deal with our problem. The question last night on the Practitioner 1 test for them to look at was this idea of a client coming to them with Hodgkin's disease, having been told what the protocol will be medically, and the client saying to the practitioner, I believe, you guys teach that the mind controls the body. Or as this quote is, we should do well to look to the mind to the answer for all of our problems. So this person was wanting to have the practitioner basically give them a permission slip to not do any treatment and still know that they're being healed. Well, it was not a trick question, but it was a very complex question for the practitioner, because as a practitioner, my job is not to say, yes, your mind can heal it, don't listen to your doctor. That's not my job. That's giving advice. I'm there to just talk about spiritual truth. Yes, the mind does control the body, but unless you know that your mind 100% believes without a shadow of a doubt at all that your mind can heal your body, then we also believe that Western medicine is here to help us. It's all God. So we don't say one way or the other. We're not Christian Science. We do not say, yes, your mind can heal your body, do not take the medicine. That would be malpractice, to be honest. You cannot give that advice to someone. But you can stay in the spiritual truth. My mind does control my body. And the mind is the only thing that makes this work, that makes the body do what it does. So that was the trick question to the practitioners, but so far, every one of them got it. So that's pretty great. For me, as their teacher, clearly I'm teaching them in the right way. So that's all I can say. So as much as possible as we can conceive according to law, also on page 44, as much as possible as we can conceive according to law. Again, this just reinforces what I said a moment ago. According to law, meaning, yes, conceive away. Everything's possible for you to conceive according to the law. But the law is going to listen to you saying, yes, this is what I want, as well as, I'm not sure I can get it. So the law is listening to it all. So that's why we talk about what's so important about meditation, what's so important about contemplation, what's so important about any spiritual tool that pulls our mind into focus. Well, for that very reason. The law is listening and saying yes to whatever you give it. The more you stay in a concentrated place of Christ consciousness, in a concentrated place of knowing who you are, the more you stay there, the more the law is bringing about those things that you say you want, those experiences you say you want to live. Page 46, he says, treatment is always definite, conscious, concrete, and explicit. I wanted to go over one more time this idea of outlining. Outlining means you're getting involved in telling the law how to do what you want done. And that's not our job. Our job is to be, not to have to tell the universe how to accomplish what we want. Because in mind, everything that you want already exists. And if everything you want already exists in the mind of God, You're not here to create anything. You're here to reveal the truth, which means you're here to open up a pathway to receive your own good. So that's why treatment is always definite. This is what I want. Just don't get involved in, and here's how it's going to happen, right? Definite, conscious, concrete, and explicit. I love that word explicit. Usually it's usually explicit something more, mature in terms of movies. This is an explicit movie. Well, I would love my treatments to be more mature and be more explicit. Exactly what I want. Nuance. Here's what I want, and here's what it should look like. I remember before I met Kevin, I took a year off of dating, and the world was better for it. I just stopped because I said on Sunday my love life was like just a wake of bodies in my path. And I mean dead bodies. I don't mean bodies. So, the idea that understanding that I took a year off to clear my mind, to get my mind back into shape so that I could actually be the person I wanted to be. So be explicit. And I remember saying, I want someone who's smart. I want someone who's funny. It has to be sexy. I'd prefer a blonde, but whatever you bring me is fine. But I do prefer a blonde. And of course, that was false advertising because Kevin was only blonde for about a year. It then faded into darkness. But I was clear. I was okay with a brunette or a redhead or anything, but I prefer a blonde. So being explicit and being clear is important. What do you want? Don't say you want a house without a pool and then buy a house with a pool and say, I'll fill it in. Or say, I want a pool and get a condo with no pool. No, be specific, be explicit, be conscious, be definite. Okay, that is my spiel for the morning of everything I wanted to go over again. Now I'm going to call you each individually, and I will actually I will unmute you to make it easier for everyone. So Corrine, I'm unmuting you first, since I talked about you already. So have at it. Although now it's not unmuting. It looks like you have to unmute yourself.
There you go. Mine is on page 41, and it's the second paragraph. The universe is impersonal. It gives alike to all. It is no receptor of persons. It values each alike. Its nature is to impart, ours to receive. When we stand in the light, we cast a shadow across the pathway of our own experience. Emerson advises that we get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. And that is probably, especially after taking the test last night, one of my biggest challenges is just getting out of my own way. There's no one else really in my way. It's me in every aspect that I'm challenged. And so I work on that.
But you do recognize how important that, I know you do. It's really important for the law to be impersonal because, Matt, let's just all think about, what if the law was personal? The way we used to think of God, God, our lives, well, actually our lives would be like they were when we were Christian or Jewish or whatever it was before this. We'd be trying to placate some entity we'd be dealing with Santa Claus. Are you good or you're not good? Do you deserve this or you don't deserve this? So the fact that the law is impersonal means I deserve everything. I deserve everything I get. So that's one of the things that why this teaching is also not so user friendly in terms of publicity, because
But that's also the beautiful part.
Totally.
We get to have it all if we choose and embody that, and that.
But most people these days, they don't want the responsibility of that. They want a God to come in and say, "You've been a good girl, Corrine. I'm giving you the world."
Right.
So yeah. So that impersonal thing, the universe is impersonal. I think most of what we're going to talk about today and most of what we've been talking about are things that make great sense to us, and then they kind of go by the side of the road, because if we really remembered that it was impersonal, we'd stop getting caught in all of these I'm less than, I'm not worthy games, because we'd realize what a detriment it is to our lives to live that way. So that's great. How do you feel after your big test?
I feel good. I think it's hysterical that spiritual mind treatment. I know that like my own name, and that just went blank. So I'm a little embarrassed, but I'm good. I passed.
Well, I love that you just told everybody that. So I get to the point, I'm grading her test last night, and I get to the point, what is spiritual mind treatment? And she's like, she goes blank.
I did.
And yet the rest of the test, she's writing these articulate answers for questions. I'm like, really? What is spiritual mind treatment? Is tripping you up? I was like, very funny. But you did great. You really did great.
Thank you.
And it's over, so that's good. Okay, Mindy.
Hi. I think there's something in this that you were just talking about that I find interesting when a lot of people will say, "You're so blessed," or "I'm very blessed." When things go well, God is good. I'm so blessed. As to me, that always rings like I've been good, and so God has blessed me in this, and if I weren't, and that's why it's not happening to this person, is because, and it just serves to divide us more.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I totally agree. I totally agree.
So that always kind of makes me go, ew, when I see somebody or hear somebody say that.
Well, because we're so used to separating people based on how good we think they are, or how lucky they are, or how successful they are or not. We really are more judgmental than we know.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the truth is, if this is our belief, is that we're all blessed the same.
Mm-hmm.
And how much do we partake of that blessing? How much do we acknowledge that?
Well, for me, I think it's this. I think it's everything you said, and how much are you willing to bless yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's just say, you are blessed, and that usually means to somebody that God has blessed you. But if I am God, how blessed do I receive myself as?
Mm-hmm.
Because how often, and I know this, we know this, we have children. There are things about raising children that can really trip you up. You watch your children growing up, and you watch things happening to them that happen to you, and you just want to jump in there and save them from what's going on. I remember when Nora was being bullied in middle school, I was beyond useful. I was like, I couldn't even, I'd go to pick her up. I'd go an hour early and just sit waiting for her, worried that, she might need to run to the car to escape. And, and the truth was, yes, she was being bullied, but she needed to find her voice to tell them to I told her, I said, you know what? Don't only find your voice, find a fist. If someone comes at you, go right back at them. I don't know if that's the most spiritual advice, but it was what I said. And she found that horrifying, actually. She goes, I could never hit anybody. I said, trust me, as soon as someone hits you, you'll probably find your right arm. Knowing that from experience. So, there are a lot of things about looking at the world, and all of a sudden I'm out of my centered blessedness. And I'm judging these kids for being bullies. I don't know who their parents are. I don't know what they're working through in their life. But what's our teaching say? Well, the teaching says if Nora's being bullied, that's what she's brought forth into her life for whatever reason, not mine to judge.
Some experience.
And that's not easy, is it, Mindy?
No. And Luke said to me this morning, he goes, so if I'm supposed to love only and forgive everything, like, what about ISIS? How do I think about that? And I gave an answer, which I don't know, I would love to get your feedback on. I just said, if we participate in againstness against those people, that they are evil, and he was talking about evil people that do evil things, if we participate and that's what we hold in our consciousness toward them, then we're participating with them. I said, so if we can, the only thing we really can do to affect any sort of energetic change is to hold love and compassion for them, because they clearly are not, what they are focusing on is bringing about what they're experiencing. And they have I said they weren't born that way, and they have completely, they're not in alignment with the truth of who they are, nor of how the universe works. So
Right. And I can love only and still vote my conscious.
right. And I said it's not being an acceptance
Right.
of, you don't have to accept that, but you still can be, but you don't have to be against.
Exactly. Love only doesn't mean I am now a doormat.
Right.
Love only means I can see the truth, I can see the love, even in the midst of someone so heinous, an event, a behavior so heinous as what goes on with ISIS.
Because if we're not, or a lot of things going on in our world right now that just really drain my energy, really stress me out when I focus on them.
Yeah, sure.
And then, so then what am I allowing my consciousness to do? What am I allowing my energy to do is it's taking me away from this. It's taking me away from creativity and joy and fulfillment, and right. And so it's not like I can just sit, okay, I'm blissed out and everything is perfect. It is it is functioning according to law, though.
Right.
So what is that definition?
Well, you're part of the problem then, because you're now the energy, that negative energy. Yeah.
Right.
That's
Right.
great. Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate that. That was terrific. Okay, Georgette, you're up.
Hi there. My salient point is on page 40,
40 what?
47, 48.
Okay, got it.
And it is, what I really appreciate about learning more about this is, until you really start digging into it deeply and reading this, they're words. And I took this class because I don't want them to be words. I want to understand what it actually really means and deeply understand it. And it's so difficult to define things that are undefinable. And the way that these chapters put forth these concepts and help you really try and grasp the deepness of what is really going on, I'm finding very fascinating. And I tend to be super analytical, so I really question and analyze everything, and I really look for things that try and make sense out of these concepts that are very indefinable and difficult to understand. They're so simple, but yet they're so difficult.
Well,
So,
I'm happy to figure it out for you.
I'm sure you've got it all figured out. But the concept that
Where is it? Yep.
that really helped me was when they were talking about the iron in the foundry, and you melt the iron being the divine givingness that is liquid and will take on any form of any mold that it goes into. And it was talking also about multiplicity from unity and drawing from one source. So the source being divine givingness, the liquid being poured into the molds of the mind, which then make it subject to whatever shape or whatever vessel it gets poured into, which then relates with our receptivity and how we bring that forth. And that concept to me really kind of helped define love and law, and how we are then able to form how we use it and what we do with it.
Right. Well, the whole concept of the liquidity, it's about your it's about your mind, and when you talk about the mold that you put it into, we talk about ceilings in our lives. What's the ceiling? What's the ceiling on prosperity for you? How high can you envision your prosperity. A lot of people have a low bar, have a low ceiling, so the mold is smaller. Now, there's an infinite amount of liquidity. Liquidity, is that a word? An infinite amount of consciousness, liquid mind, right? There's an infinite amount of that to pour. But if I'm only going to hand it this little mold, well, I can only take this much. So I'm good at like 50,000 a year. Yet there are people who are good at like 100 billion a year. And even then, that's still a mold, isn't it?
Right. That's what I loved about it, because it really solidified the concept of the mold is whatever you want it to be, and it can be as big or small, because whatever you pour into it, it's going to take the shape of that mold. So that concept was just so revelationary in defining love and law, and
Yes.
the limitless of the love and the limitedness of the mold.
Yeah, and what I love about that too is whenever you hear me saying, "Well, you're equal to it," that's what that means. I am equal to it because this is the mold I am equal to, and it will always be full. If I'm equal to lack, it will be full or empty of lack. You know, if I am equal to an amazing career, I've given the mold to the universe to fill for this amazing career, and so it is. It always says yes. But if I give it, I want an amazing career, but I really don't think I have what it takes to have an amazing career, that's my mold. And it's a mixed message, and that's what I've given it, and that's what it's going to fill.
Yeah, and then it puts all the responsibility on us. There's no favoritism. It's all what we choose. And that's kind of a big concept too, to accept the fact that we did this. This is our choice, and we can change it or not.
Well, it's a double-edged sword. It goes back to what Corrine said, because it means I can, I'm responsible, and then I'm responsible.
Right.
You know, but I think people like the idea of there being a chance that they can win the lottery, not be equal to the lottery, but there's a chance that they can win the lottery and have done nothing but buy a tiny little ticket. It's why I don't even buy tickets to the lottery. I'm very clear. I'm not winning the lottery. I just don't believe I'm going to win the lottery. Now, people have said to me, "You really should work on that." And I'm like, why would I spend my mental coinage working on winning the lottery when there's that in me that's just like, I'm not going to win the lottery. So I don't play the lottery, but I am going to do a lot of other things. So what are you equal to becomes a very important question at the end of the day. That's great, Georgette. Thank you. Okay, Jeanette Linda. Oh wait, I'll try to unmute you and see if it works. Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
You can go first, babe. You haven't been on the call.
Thank you.
Oh, Georgette, don't forget to mute yourself.
Did you read my email today? This morning?
Are you speaking to me, Jeanette?
Yes, I am.
Okay. No, I haven't read anything. I just got up and jumped into this chair.
Okay, well, I read this thing twice, this chapter.
Which quote? What page are you on?
All of them. The whole chapter.
Yeah, I just want a salient point. I can't do your whole chapter.
The chapter.
Pick one.
There-
One that you
No,
highlighted.
the whole chapter.
The whole chapter.
Yeah. I just, I read it twice, and I kept, can I ask you a question first?
Yes, go ahead.
How do you
We're
feel-
having trouble hearing you though, so get closer to the
I will. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
How do you feel about having a contract when you come into this life?
I have no feeling about it.
Okay, so does that mean
It means I don't have an opinion about it. I think it could be true. Maybe it's not true. I don't weigh in one way or another.
okay?
It sounds interesting to say. I mean, you may not have heard me, but I have said before in classes, you know, it would be very interesting to go, you know what? I think I'd like to come into this world with Tom and Dee Mellon. Tom's going to be a cop. My mother's, the woman's going to be a model. And you know what? And they're going to have all boys. They're all jocks. Let me be a gay ballet dancer. This should be a fun ride. I mean, that would be fun. You know, oh, and by the way, they're both alcoholics, so that'll be fun too, because I can get involved in the, that whole thing. That would be an interesting thing. I like the idea that that could happen, but I could never teach it because I don't know.
Well, like very briefly, I I was raised with a very, very abusive father, angry nonstop, and I realized at the last couple of years of his life that I came into this life for him to love me, and I'm like, well, why wasn't he just come in loving me? He did
Right.
it, but he wasn't able to. I had to change. The light bulb came on, and I got it.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Here's what I do know, and this is science of mind.
Mhm.
I do believe that whatever we come into the world with, we're equal to.
Mhm.
Because this is not just one little go around. Life is infinite. So, I was equal to an abusive father. I was equal to an alcoholic mother. I was equal to, roughhouse brothers. I was equal to being a marginalized person, meaning a gay boy in a very Irish Catholic neighborhood. So I was equal to all of that. That doesn't mean I chose it necessarily. It just means I was equal to it. So I do believe that, because I don't believe anything happens that we're not equal to.
But I mean, for me, it made a huge difference because I purposely wanted, I knew it, and I purposely wanted to change that because I wanted to make sure before he died that it changed.
Right. And so you were equal to that journey and you took it. That makes
Right.
perfect sense. Oh, that's good.
Um,
Okay.
but
So
yes,
what was it about the chapter? It's called What It Does.
right. Another thing, just to explain me, I'm an artist. I had to take like beginning art classes in school. I knew everything. It was in me. And it was difficult to be there and have to learn like yellow and blue make green. And then reading this, it was like I was having difficulty reading it and getting the words because it was like I was numb. I was getting numb. It was.
You sound like Tiffany Milne.
Well, it's like I know it. I
But here's the thing. This book is not about knowing it. As I think Mindy said, or somebody said, this book is about embodying it.
right.
So we do know it. There's nothing in this book that we don't know. There's nothing new in new thought. That'd be a good log line for me. There's nothing new in new thought. However, what's new is actually learning to live it, which is why this is called Live It Up.
And I do live it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the good news today, Jeanette, is that your hair looks lovely.
It's
I don't know how
always
you, I
great.
don't know how you did that this early in the morning, but
I'm in my pajamas.
that's okay. Okay, so I have to move on to Linda because I still have 12 other people, but good. Thank you for those questions. Linda, where's your quote?
Well, you could almost pick anything I highlighted.
Well, pick one.
Well, on page 49, at the very bottom, the principle that we have to demonstrate is perfect. That is what I think I am constantly working to express in my life. That perfection of the God within me. It's already there. I don't have to be anything other than. And I have to constantly remind myself. I don't know why it slides away and comes back and slides away, but it is what the whole process of science of mind to me is. Constantly staying clear on who I am and that I am the divine.
Well, I'm gonna throw a little wrench into this for you. So, read that quote again.
The principle that we have to demonstrate is perfect.
Okay, so just to be clear, Ernest Holmes is saying the principle is perfect. What is divine principle? Well, divine principle is that you are a spiritual being living in a spiritual universe governed by your use of a spiritual law, the law of cause and effect. That's perfect. The law is perfect. The principle is perfect. You, on the other hand, not so perfect. No. You, on the other hand, you get to use this perfect principle to create your life in whatever mode you want. And that can be first of all, perfect is subjective. So it can be perfect, it can be imperfect. You can do anything you want with it. So I think we spend way too much time trying to live up, I'm getting to use this title a lot today, to live up to something that's not real. There is no perfection that is real in the universe, in the world rather, in this relative world, because what is perfect for Jeanette is not perfect for you. What's perfect for Corrine really is not perfect for any of us. She has her own likes, her own dislikes. So what would be perfect for her won't be perfect for someone else. So it's all subjective, but the principle is perfect. So I don't try to live up to any idea of perfection other than to stay in my highest self and listen to what really wants to come through me. That's the only perfection there is.
Well,
So
that's
you
the
could be,
only one I got is me.
yeah, that's it. I don't know who else is living in there, but hopefully
So
just
who
you
else
at the
is in
moment.
there? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, with no disrespect for Esther Hicks, who has a lot of people living in there. So that's great. Thank you, Linda. Okay, Mr. Doug. Oh, I'll mute you guys.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All
Yeah, you
right.
sound great. And you look very bright. It's a very bright room you're in.
It's my office. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it looks great with you.
Gloomy outside though. Look how gloomy.
I know. I'm looking right at
Please.
the gloom. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of things. First, salient point on page 45, where he restates the principle, summing it up. No, that's the different one. Page 45, he writes, each state of consciousness taps the same source, but has a different receptivity. Each receives what he asks for according to his ability to embody. And so to me, that's a pretty eloquent way of saying that we get what we are receptive to and what we can, both what we're receptive to and what we can embody. And I understand that as the mental equivalent, what we can form that image of draws the thing to us. What I was fascinated with in this chapter is when he talks about an evolving consciousness. At the bottom of page 43, he says we can never completely fathom the infinite mind. We shall always be discovering new lands. Evolution is the eternal unfoldment of the more yet to be. And then on page 46, he talks about the thing itself. In expressing itself through us, it becomes more fully conscious of its own being. Therefore, it wishes to express through us. I love that notion that God or spirit, if I'm grasping this correctly, is he saying that God or spirit itself evolves in part through its experience of each of our individual lives?
Yes, I usually have a hard time with that particular concept. But I have a better understanding of it now as I get older. It used to annoy me when people would say, God needs you. Well, what's that song, Ricky Byers, but God needs us.
Yeah.
That drove me nuts, that song. I'm like, God doesn't need us.
Right.
What are you saying? That if I'm not here, God's screwed? No, God doesn't need us to express, in one sense. But now I'm starting to understand, as you just said, because you didn't say God needs me to express. Read that little last thing that you just read again.
He says, in expressing itself through us, it becomes more fully conscious of its own being. Therefore, it wishes to express through us.
Right. It wishes to express through us. That works for me because what God is this creative energy that is constantly expanding and growing and moving. And I also like the other quote you read about how we could never understand the enormity, the infiniteness, the infiniteness, I guess that's a word, of the universe. That it's impossible for us to really comprehend that in this expression, in the expression I'm in. I know we have moments of feeling it, but to actually consciously, with a critical mind, think about that and get it, I think that would be difficult. I won't say impossible, but difficult. So I get that. And what you're saying is there's this, as we understand God, as this creative energy that is constantly evolving, the evolution is just the constant more that there is to know. That's who I am. God doesn't need me to do that. God is me. I am God, and it's what I do. So it's not like this thing called God needs me to express itself. I am God, and as such, I am always expressing myself. Now I can get in the way and block it, at least block my understanding of it, and take a journey and take a route that maybe I wish I was taking a more direct route, but it's never going to stop, and it's never going to. So that concept of needing me, it does make sense. I could probably argue it in a lawyerly way from that perspective, but I'd rather stick with the here's who I am, therefore it's just innate in me.
Yes, but so God, at least Holmes is saying, God experiences itself through the individual or through each individual. Right?
I agree with that. Yeah,
And,
because I am God.
And you said earlier, and I'm sure Holmes has said it somewhere, everything already exists in the mind of God. So how do we deal with the concept that everything already exists in the mind of God, yet we are on this path that our experiences, through our experiences, we grow, and to the extent I accept the concept that I am God and God is experiencing itself through me, as me, there's some growth going on there. How do you square that with everything already exists?
Because it's not really growth. We use the word growth, it's awareness.
Okay.
Nothing's ever growing. We're becoming more aware of it. It's like when we're in practitioner class, the understanding that you can't treat anything in the future. Everything's already perfectly, fully experienced and realized right now in the present moment. So when I say, and so it is, it's because I recognize and know it's all right here. It already is. It's not growing. It's not evolving. It's none of that. What's evolving, evolution, is my awareness of it all. It doesn't evolve. Our awareness of it evolves the presence of it.
Well, yes, but Holmes said it becomes more fully conscious of its own being in expressing through itself, that earlier quote.
Yeah, but I use it as me.
Okay.
I become more conscious of my own being, because he's calling it the thing itself. But remember, we've taken that paradigm shift already away from the duality of Ernest Holmes into every time it says it means me. There is no God separate from me. It's what I am. So I take this entire book as an individual experience. So if you thought about it that way, that would mean something different to you.
Okay.
Like read that sentence again, get rid of it and put I.
Well, in expressing itself through us, I become more fully conscious of my own being.
Read it again, now get rid of itself and put myself.
In expressing myself through it, I become more fully conscious of my own being.
There you go.
Okay.
Maybe I should teach a class called Rewriting Ernest. People would love that class, I bet. And I invite everyone to come in and rewrite the book. Tiffany could teach that class.
I have one more question if I have time.
Yes, go ahead. Uh-huh.
On page 50, Holmes writes, God did not make law. But in the glossary, or whatever it's called, in the definition of God is the first cause, the cause of all. And the definition of law is mind in action. And how do we, is that simply a teaching device because to separate spirit or God from law is simply a teaching device because they are all one thing?
Yes, and yes, you just nailed it. I mean, we teach conscious mind and subjective mind as two facets of mind. And even though we teach it that way, it does say in the book it constantly, and I teach it this way all the time, we only use this as a teaching tool because in truth it's one thing. Love and law are the exact same thing.
Right.
Two sides of a coin, but the same coin. So they're not separate. They're not, I mean, law, every time you believe something, you are believing it as law. You're not believing it. That's why I insist now, my practitioners say, I release my word as law, not into something that's separate from me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's exactly what you're experiencing. It's just a teaching tool that can still sometimes trip us up into a dualistic understanding of this, and it's not.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Great questions. Okay, Francisco.
Okay. My salient point is page 45, second paragraph. Life always becomes to us the particular thing we need when we believe that it becomes to us that particular thing. And I was replacing, the words, the particular thing with wealth, health, and stuff like that. And then it was funny that you then started speaking about how we need to look at or replace the words life with I or me, and that I become that particular thing. And you were talking about that, but it was funny because just before that, I was just thinking that that's what I need to do. And then here you are, you two talking about it, which is incredible. And it's just, I'm just so excited to do this now.
And it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if the whole concept of spiritual mind treatment is we can achieve, we can demonstrate whatever we become, then my life is always going to become to me what I am. So if I'm a curmudgeon, I'll find every person on the planet to be curmudgeonly about. If I am afraid, scared, I will find a lot of things to be afraid of. So it will always show up based on what I am.
Right. And so I'm having an issue where I'm in these conversations with people that don't necessarily subscribe to science of mind. And, they're talking about people or talking about negative stuff. And I want to understand where my part is, because I don't want to be like, oh, you shouldn't talk about that or stop them or anything like that. But then again, I also don't want to just sit there and listen to the negativity, that comes out. And so I struggle with, well, what am I supposed to do with that? But be God and allow it?
Depends on what it is you're talking about. Are you talking about work?
No, I'm usually talking about, let's just say I'm in a family dinner and they start talking about somebody that is maybe their family member, and they're just making fun of them and everybody's laughing, and I would be the only one that I'm thinking, wow, I don't really want to be in that. I don't want to see them that way. I'd rather see them, illumined in light and in perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And but then I'm now not a part of that conversation anymore, and
Yeah,
I'm like the odd man out.
Yeah, no, you're new to Science of Mind, right?
Yeah.
I can only tell you, and Corinne's kind of smiling up there because I think she knows what I'm going to say. When you first come into this teaching, it does become challenging. I remember having to kind of educate my family, not to educate them to change, but to educate them that Here's what I am willing to listen to and what I'm not willing to listen to. Here's how I'm willing to interact. Here's how I'm not willing to interact. It got easier as life went on because I got better at seeing God no matter what they were talking about. But in the beginning, I had to basically say, I mean, I'm from Philadelphia, and my family uses terms that are completely racist, and it just doesn't work for me. I mean, they still use the word, and excuse me for saying it, they still use the word faggot when I was first getting into this teaching as a joke. And I finally had to say, okay, here's the deal. Someone uses that word and I'm out of here. Someone uses the N word and I'm out of here. I don't care what you do on your own time. I actually do, but it's not my job. But I can't be a part of this. This, and I would start talking to them about. Now, I did it lovingly, to be honest. I actually did. I waited. I didn't do it in the midst of reacting, because when you do it when you're reacting, you're going to get into a fight. But I was able to basically say to people, and then it became funny for a while, because I'd walk into a room, or I'd come home for the holidays and they'd be like, oh, we all have to watch what we're talking about now. And I would just laugh, and I'd laugh and go, yes, you do, if you want me here. So, and after a while, there's a reason why we call it the relative world. I constantly say you have to get rid of your relatives. And I mean, those things in the world that we're not in alignment with. But you know what? There are people, and they may be on this call or watching it later, there are people in our congregation who voted for Donald Trump. Hard to believe for me, but I actually get it now, because Corinne and I were talking about this last night. When they go into those conversations, I say what I believe and what I feel, but I stay away from judgment. And if judgment starts to show up, I basically pull myself out of it and say, you know what, that's not healthy. So that's 20 some odd years later after I started this journey. So you're going to find that you're living in a world where, as you just said, most people are not science of mind. And they're not clear on the fact that their mind and whatever they're doing with it is creating, but you are. So yeah, It's not okay to sit and just listen to that stuff and let something well up inside of you, like anger or resentment or whatever, because now whatever that's welling up inside of you is now creating in your life. So it is important for us to keep our minds clear.
Well, and I realize also that it's coming about so that I can be more forgiving in the face of things like that, and because that's the embodiment of I am in God. And so, yes.
Well, back to Mindy. What's going to change? What's going to change ISIS? What's going to change the world? Well, more love, and even more love is going to change the vibration. And that's back to that quote. The only thing that's going to change anything is mind. So if I put my mind and I pollute it and get involved in the problem, it's when Ernest Holmes said, show me a man who is for something and against nothing. What he meant was, show me a man who stays in the consciousness of love and doesn't get involved in the hate and in the anger and the fighting against something. Just show up for love. Martin Luther King had it right.
Great.
Great question. And now I think we're all going to start reading this book and go, okay, that's I. This is I. Yeah, I'm excited to go back and read this whole thing again that way.
Very exciting.
Great. Thanks, Francisco. Okay, Alexandra. I unmuted you, Alexandra.
Muted?
I did.
Hi, Good morning, everybody. Thank you for sending me the Zoom number. I was like scrambling around this morning. I loved this whole chapter, and what I wrote as my salient points is actually on page 40. It was right at the beginning, and it is regarding divine spirit. Before it can reveal its secrets, it must have an outlet. And then I also put the other one in the third paragraph is, a unity must be established and a conscious connection must be made. And what I liked about those two statements is it totally puts it on me. It is my responsibility. And not only is it my responsibility, it needs my participation. So those were the two words that really, participation and responsibility, instead of me, oh, why is this happening? It turns it around, and it's like it's to here. I just can't sit and think that even by just reading a book, okay, I read it, I understand it. No, I need to do something about it. It needs my participation. And the word responsibility means a lot to me, because then I can't blame. I can't put the blame on anything or anyone.
And Alex and I talked about this yesterday, this very quote. And what came up is responsibility is a very important word. Receptivity. I have to be willing to accept it. I have to be willing to embody it. But another word that's really important is authority. Do you have the authority over your life? Do you sit in the authoritative place of knowing that who you are has the right to accept and receive anything?
Yeah.
You know, because we so often give our authority away.
Yeah. After that sentence, before it can reveal its secrets, it must have an outlet. And then it says, this outlet we shall be compelled to supply through our own receptive mentalities.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and I we talked about this yesterday. I need to start stating things with authority. That word really stuck out to me yesterday. It's like, I can, I am, I will, instead of I'm not sure, I don't think, you know, all of
and we have to stop leaving it up to everybody else, as if the economy is going to decide how much money we make, as if our boss is going to decide whether or not we get a promotion, as if, as an actor, directors and producers are going to decide whether I get to act. You know, we give our authority away way too much, which really means we give away our identity. So that's great, Alex. Thank you. Okay, Dee, you're up.
There. My salient point is on page 47, end of paragraph 2. And the reason I like this is that I loved what you just said about authority, is that science of mind for me for a long time was something that I felt like I had to work at, that I had to achieve, that I had to understand. And this is the first week that the shift has happened, that I feel like I am living from that foundation and that base. This is who I am. And it's it makes me so happy. In spite of some stupid things that have happened this week that I'll share in a minute. But the salient point is, the more power one gives to his thought, the more completely he believes that his thought has power, the more power it will have. And that's such a circle of affirmation for me, because I love the fact in this philosophy that, well, first of all, I had read earlier in the chapter where Ernest Holmes says, to be well, happy, and to express freedom is to be in accord with divine law and wisdom. That's your birthright. Who wouldn't want to be well, happy, and completely free? I mean, if you do anything in life, that's the whole enchilada, you know? And I feel like that's possible if I live who I am. So now what I'm starting to look at is that love and law is like a prescription, like what gives me confidence. And you said this, another thing that helped me was in class last week, you were talking about faith. And I always thought that faith was something you had to earn, or you had to find, or you had to whatever. And in the Methodist belief, you are a woman of faith if you trust that. But sometimes you don't have faith, you can lose faith, or somebody will say, well, what faith are you? Well, I'm a Methodist, you know. But the idea that faith is 100% there, that's your bedrock, that's your foundation. And so this week, anytime something came up, the idea of faith made me feel comforted, because I could finally understand that circle, that stupid circle that we studied that made me crazy for a long time. You know, the idea that, you know, the whole thing, that our faith powers our beliefs, and that you use this prescription of love and law, and that gives you your birthright to be well, happy, and express freedom. So I had a stupid thing happen on the way to church. I wanted to get there on time, and I was busy, and I took my teeth and I put them in my container and put them in my pocket, got in my trunk. My teeth fell out. They went on the cement, and I ran over them. $800, $900, $1,000, ran over them. And I thought the whole way to church, how the hell can this be good and this be God?
Wait, I'm sorry. You ran over your teeth?
What?
You ran over your teeth?
I ran over my container that had my teeth in it and annihilated them. You know, that had that.
Oh, I see those teeth. Okay.
Yeah, so now I look like a yahoo all the time, and people don't take me seriously. All week long, people think that you are retarded if you look like this, and they don't take you seriously. So I'm practicing smiling without my teeth. You know, if you can't hide it, paint it red kind of thing. But what happened then was I called my dentist and went in and got 7 teeth removed and have 12 more to go to get my dentures. And he said, I'm so glad you came in at this time because your teeth are so bad that it would cause you physical problems. So for my health and my so I don't know, I'm just in a really good place with all this right now.
You're doing what I believe, which is that life always unfolds.
You know what, when you're talking, it's very distorted.
Well, it might be, I don't know what that is. Is it distorted for all of you? Wow, that's so weird. I can't tell why.
Here, I'll mute myself because I'm
mute
kind
yourself.
of
Maybe it's coming through.
Yeah, let me see if that helps.
Or I'll mute you.
Mute yourself.
There you go. Is that better for everybody? No, I wonder what it is. Let's see, did I push something on? No, it's been okay all night, right? All day though, right? Yeah, it's been okay and then it's not. I don't know what it is. Hold on, let me try. Mute, unmuting. Any better?
Yeah, that's better now.
Is that a little better? Well, let me just try to hear what I'm saying. Or you know what? I'm going to pull this out and see if maybe my regular mic. Oh, wait.
That's much better.
Is that better now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
You know what it was? It got loose. My microphone got loose.
Oh.
So what I'm going to say is this. So when we subscribe to the understanding that life always unfolds perfectly, and that's not a wish. That's not just oh, I hope that's true. It's what Doug was talking about. The universe is a creative entity that consistently and constantly, God is always evolving, not itself, but my individual relationship and understanding of it. So when I get it, that life is always unfolding for the highest and best, then sometimes we have to run over our teeth with our car in order to get to the doctor so that the doctor can say,
yeah, exactly.
Amen.
Yeah. I mean, I get irritated with people that are stupid, but when I do something so incredibly stupid, it's like, okay, I don't know where to put this in my mind.
I have a very soft spot in my heart now for people that we call stupid because I actually understand that they're not. But somewhere along the line, someone told them that they were, and they bought it. So they're just living it out. So my job, I always feel like my job is to get them to understand, you're really not stupid.
Yeah.
So,
and I like the idea at the end of the chapter, he was talking about the pig iron in the liquid. That's not to be a pun, but that solidified a lot of things for me.
Good.
But I can just feel a really wonderful shift. And I didn't know what I was going to do for my last project, and some wonderful poetry and story came through. So.
Oh, good. I'm glad you brought that up because that's how I wanted to end today. So thank you, Dee. I wanted to remind you all that don't forget to be on top of your projects. I know Alex is working on hers furiously. So Mindy, do you have your project? Do you know what you're going to do? You're going to do like a belly dance or something?
No belly dance, but I have an idea.
Okay, good. Okay, and Doug, I expect something very I was just going to say inappropriate. I expect something very unexpected from you. I don't know why. I just feel like something unexpected. We'll see what happens.
James, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Can you just differentiate for me the way it works and what it does? They seem like the same thing.
I would love to differentiate it for you, but they are very similar.
Okay.
And in fact, I think he goes back and forth within the two.
Right. That's why I was like, I was trying to go, okay, and so clearly it must not be necessary to figure that out because it seems like it's.
No,
Okay,
and you can't. And when you get to how to use it, you're going to think he's still talking about a couple of the other two chapters. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you are right on track. Okay, everyone. Thank you for a great morning. I will see you all on Sunday, and some of you before that. And then now your job now is to go ahead and read chapter 4. So you're going to turn your salient points to the next Zoom meeting, and then I'll teach it afterwards, just to remind you all. So everybody take a deep breath. Oh, I am so, so grateful to each individualized expression of the divine ideal, of the Christ consciousness that showed up here this morning. Every idea, every thought, every discussion, moving and expressing and expanding, recognizing that it is all God, meaning that it is all this unformed substance that is continually being formed as the very experience of life that each person here is having. And I know that I am at choice at all times to create exactly what is mine to experience. And so I know that as this day before me continues to unfold, I call it good and even better, and that everything I am here to live and experience, all of my purpose of enjoying life to its fullest, is right here, right now, activated. And I know that for myself and for each person on this line, and for every person that's been brought forth in our conversations today. And so with that, I just release my word as law, knowing that my word is the law of life, as is every person's word on this call. And so I just get out of the way of those divine circuits and just allow this day to unfold with precision, with clarity, ease, grace, with love. And I just let it be so. As together we all say, and so it is. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.